How did you arrive at such a simple way to talk about what a healthy family looks like?
This is the central concept of the lifestyle of a Christian.
What have you said to couples that it's like, man, I feel like I'm just not feeling that closeness?
I think, unfortunately, what happens to many couples, they do exactly what you've said.
That you don't have to fix it all at once. It's small steps over time.
Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of the husband and the father's role in the family?
The role of the father in the home is exceedingly valuable.
When I asked that question, I expected a lot of things, but I love what you said, and I didn't expect that. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Live Change podcast. Today, we're talking about 5 traits that can make every single family healthier. And to do so, Joanna and I are interviewing the legendary Dr. Gary Chapman, author of the 5 Love Languages. He's joining us here today. Welcome to the Live Change podcast, Dr. Gary Chapman. Well, Dr. Chapman, we are honored to have you here on the Live Change podcast, and your work speaks for itself, but we'd love to hear a little bit more about you. So could you, for those that are just getting to know you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
Well, I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That's my southern accent, okay?
That's awesome.
I have worked on the same church staff for 50 years, doing various things, but marriage and family counseling has always been a major part of my ministry on the staff. And married and to the same woman for 62 years.
Incredible.
She says she doesn't know how that's possible because she's only 49. But at any rate, we have 2 grown children. Both of them are married, and one of them has 2 children who are now out of college, just recently out of college. And our daughter is a medical doctor. She delivers high-risk babies.
Oh,
and
wow.
our son does mission work. So, we're very blessed, very blessed.
Oh, my
That's
goodness. So you have a daughter that's a medical doctor. That's a great deal of work for her to achieve that. So you must be incredibly proud.
We are. And, she told us when she was like 8 years old, when I grow up, I'm going to be a doctor.
Wow.
And she didn't change her ideas. In high school, she took 3 years of chemistry and 4 years of Latin in high school.
Oh, my goodness.
So she was serious, and she loves what she does.
I assure you, I took none of those things.
Nor did I.
But you did take something, though, that I think is really profoundly interesting. You work on a church staff, but you're an anthropologist by training. Is that correct, sir?
I did an undergrad and a master's degree in cultural anthropology. And the motivation for that is I was thinking God was going to lead me to work in another country. And that's a good background if you're going to work in another country, cultural anthropology. But that was not God's plan for me. But the interesting thing is, even though we wanted to go to the mission field, that was our heart, that was not God's plan for us. But now my books are all over the world.
Yeah.
Published in over 60 languages.
Wow.
I was in Hungary before the pandemic, and they've translated and published 35 of my books in Hungarian. So it's amazing how God has used the books and given us an opportunity to speak into lives in other countries as well as our country.
And I know we're going to talk about your newest book here today, but I think it would be ill-advised of us to not acknowledge the book that probably made your name familiar to most people, and also it's very few authors' work becomes part of just human vernacular like yours has. Could you tell us about the 5 Love Languages?
Yeah, they grew out of my counseling. Couples would say, one of them would say, I just feel like he doesn't love me or she doesn't love me. And the other would say, I don't understand that. I do this and this and this and this. Yeah. Why would you not feel loved? And I knew that they were sincere. In their mind, they were loving. It wasn't connecting with the other person. So eventually I took time to sit down and read several years of notes that I made when I was counseling and asked myself, when someone said, I feel like my spouse doesn't love me, what did they want? What were they complaining about?
Wow.
And their answers fell into 5 categories. So I started using it in my counseling and realized, wow, this is helping people. They get on the same page and they're speaking the right language. And so probably 5 years later, I decided, if I could put this in a book, I could probably help a lot of people I would never have time to see in my office. Little did I know the book would sell now over 20 million copies
Oh my.
and
Crazy.
be translated in over 60 languages around the world. So, yeah, you're right. It's people have asked me how do I explain that, and I say, well, the short answer is God,
Yeah.
and the long answer is God.
And
Yeah.
I could not have made it happen if I'd wanted to, but
ah,
I think it just addresses one of our deepest emotional needs, and God has seen fit to use it to help many couples learn how to keep emotional love alive in their relationship.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know for us in our house, the children's version of the 5 love
oh, that's
languages
awesome.
has been so helpful. So we have an 8-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, and it's funny. Junie is just starting to like grow into a really big personality, and just literally this weekend, I was like, you know what? I think she's loved through acts of service because she is always wanting us to do stuff for her. And it just feels so different where our son is just like, Mom, can we cuddle? Can we watch a movie?
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, Kev, I don't think she's demanding. I actually think she's loved through acts of service. And so
Oh,
anyway, I can tell you, we have
yeah.
loved your work, even specifically in our own home, and has made such a difference.
and I
Well,
can tell you, in Stephanie and I's first years of marriage, I didn't know about the 5 love languages at that time, and I got it wrong. So
mm,
I would write my wife a sonnet and give her dozens of roses, and she would be miserable because I overspent and there was dishes still in the sink, and I just didn't understand like how she wasn't being loved by the love languages that I wanted to give her. And when I read your book, everything changed because all of a sudden I was like, no roses, but the kitchen is clean. And she's like, you love me.
yeah, that's happened to all these couples all over the world. Then they realize what I think is expressing love is not always means love to them. So we have
Yeah.
to learn how to speak the other person's language. Yeah,
And now some Hungarian couples are going to be learning the love languages.
absolutely. Last week I spoke to 500 people from Brazil, and they've sold over 1 million copies in Portuguese. So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
well. God has certainly used your gifts here, and now, but you continue to write and you continue to bring your works forward, and the book that you just are publishing is The 5 Traits of a Healthy Family, which is a tremendous book. I really enjoyed reading it, and this is steered towards now that now that you have a family, whatever your family looks like, how do you make your family as healthy as possible? And so, what was your catalyst for writing this book or publishing this book at this time?
so many couples have been in my office, or singles, I should say, and said, Dr. Chapman, I'm going to get married, but I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, and I don't really know what a healthy family looks like.
Hmm.
And so I've heard that many, many times. And then, of course, so many people did not grow up in a healthy family, and they don't know what a healthy family looks like. And if they don't do anything or learn anything, they're likely to just reproduce what they grew up in.
Wow.
And so this is designed for people who are married now, who have families now, to look at your own family and see, where do we need to grow, and for younger folks who are moving into marriage and family, to have some idea of
Yeah.
some of the dynamics that create a healthy family.
Oh, that's tremendous. So there's some urgency to you. I can hear it in your voice. You're passionate about this subject.
I am, because I think the family is the basic unit of human society.
Mm.
It's God's design. And if we can have healthy families, it impacts the world.
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of times we talk about some of the practicalities on our podcast, and it's like, I don't know, if we were just to start in the 4 walls of our home, like
Oh, I
just
love that.
imagine like the lives changed, yeah, over
Yeah.
just communities and generations and what that could look like. It's also interesting you did hit on like family of origin. And so I think that that is just a really powerful reality in just what you've grown up in, even as an adult. I don't know that we recognize how much of that we're bringing forward with us or how that's determined. And so I just found the simplicity of just even what you shared in your book, that you don't have to fix it all at once. It's small steps over time. And so I'd just be curious, how did you arrive in just the simplicity of the language and just the
Mm.
steps that you've used? Because I think it's easy to look for like, let's call it a self-help book, and it just seems so complex. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, how did you arrive at just such a simple way to
Mm.
talk about what a healthy family looks like?
Well, I tried to look at the biblical teachings on family, and really these grow out of that biblical concept. So, for example, the first one, as you know, is the attitude of service, serving in the family. A husband has an
Yeah.
attitude, I'm in this marriage to help you become the person that you believe God wants you to be. That's my attitude. She has that attitude toward him. And then they have the attitude of service toward the children. This is the central concept of the lifestyle of a Christian. Jesus said about himself, I did not come to be served. I came to serve and to give my life a ransom for others. He's the model. The lifestyle of Jesus was he went about doing good.
Mm.
In a healthy family,
Yeah.
a husband has that attitude, a wife has that attitude. They exhibit that to their children. And then, as the children at appropriate ages, they begin to learn how to serve each other, how to serve mom and serve dad. And so they get the message in our family, we serve people. We reach out to help people. And then we take it beyond the family out into the community.
Wow.
So it's just it's fundamental, but it's solidly built upon the example of Jesus.
And I think it's so interesting because as most of us pursue systemic change in our world, the start is in the human family. And I think that's a tremendous way of making changes by just starting in families. But what was really, it took me off guard about reading your book was when you started with service. I was like, that was surprising in a very good way that, we would start with that. And your exact quote was, you said that serving is the oil that lubricates the gears of family life. And so so you didn't understate it at all. You were like, hey, we got to start. And what was your desire with going into service? So obviously there's the biblical element, but what was your desire? What is the importance of serving each other in family? Like, what does that do to the family unit?
Yeah. I think what it does, first of all, it gives the children a model of what life is all about. We're
Mm.
here to serve each other. And secondly, all of us deeply need the sense that our spouse wants to help us. They're not against us. We're on
Yeah.
the same team and we're there to help each other. As a matter of fact, if you don't have an attitude of service, you're not likely to have a healthy family.
Wow.
But here's the good news. We choose our attitude. We don't choose our emotions. We may feel positive toward our spouse today, but we may feel negative tomorrow because of something they did or didn't do. Emotions, we don't create them. They just happen in response to circumstances. But every single day we choose our attitude.
Wow.
And that attitude is, I want to help my wife. I want to help my husband. I want to help my children. And if we have the attitude, then we find out ways to do that in effective ways.
Wow. That's really wise. That's profoundly wise. The second thing you addressed, though, is just as interesting. You addressed with marital intimacy. So you go from serving, where it's like the family unit, but then you go into the importance of that you go like one step deeper, and you go into the fact that there's got to be a connectivity between spouses, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, in a healthy family, a husband and wife are going to have a deeply intimate relationship. Now, some people, when you hear the word intimacy, they think of the sexual part of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But it's far more than that. It's intellectual intimacy. We share our ideas with each other. We share our dreams with each other, our thoughts with each other. It's emotional intimacy. We share our emotions with each other. We have the freedom to say, honey, I'm feeling discouraged today, or I'm feeling hurt, or as well as, I'm feeling really great today, but we share our emotions with each other. And this is where the need for love, the love languages fits in. We learn how to speak each other's language. So we are meeting one of our deepest emotional needs, the need to feel loved. And then there's social intimacy. We do things together with other people. We're not, just each doing our own thing. Certainly there's an aspect of that, and it may be going to church together. That's a social event. It may be going to the symphony. It may be going to a car race, which can really be hard if you don't like people going around in the track.
But it's
The
something.
social intimacy. That's right. And spiritual intimacy. We're sharing our walk with God with each other. And I don't mean we're preaching to each other. I don't mean we say, I read this morning in the Bible and you really need to hear this. No. Yeah, honey, I read this morning. It was so meaningful to me. I just want to share it with you. And so we're sharing our walk with God together. And then, yes, there's physical intimacy. But, if we don't have intimacy in these other areas, we're not likely to have a lot of intimacy in the physical area as well.
Yeah.
It's all tied together. But in a healthy family, the husband and wife in that family are going to have an intimate relationship, and they're continually growing in that area.
Now I'm curious. So again, I just love the way you wrote it so simply that you don't have to have it all figured out when you start even uncovering some opportunities in these areas. So what would you just say to a couple, or what have you said to couples that it's like, man, I feel like in a couple of these areas, like I'm just not feeling that closeness. What are those like practical steps to start walking towards some of those? So even in the book, you gave an example around spiritual where it's like, hey, pray together. And if you're uncomfortable starting praying out loud, just hold hands while you pray in your own head. So I'm curious, what do you tell couples who are finding opportunities, just where to start?
I think, first of all, you identify, which of these areas, or maybe there's more than one, do we really need to grow in? We're either growing or regressing. I don't talk about a perfect marriage. I talk about a growing marriage. So we look at these areas and where one of you says, well, honey, I just feel like we're not really very close in terms of doing things together. I mean, you go hunting, you go fishing. I don't care for those things. I don't go with you and the people you go with. But are there some other things that maybe we can do together that both of us might enjoy? So you just talk about the area where you feel like you need to grow, and then you start looking for ways, practical ways in which we can take some steps of growth in that particular area.
Yeah, that's great. And I am curious, I feel like sometimes it's easier, or at least I'll put it in my own bucket. I found it was a lot easier to do that before kids. So maybe give
Yeah.
some encouragement, or when just life looks different. I
For
think
a
it's
friend, not for
Yeah.
Joanna.
Yeah.
It's just for someone else.
when life looks different around like, oh man, now like we're investing in other humans in our life and making sure their basic needs are met. And then of course, beyond that, like how do you continue, or how do you encourage couples to still not just pour everything in out of that cup into your kid's cup, to be able to preserve some of that for the two of you?
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, what happens to many couples, they do exactly what you've said, and they wake up down the road and realize we hardly know each other anymore. So it's really, really important that we recognize the greatest thing we can do for our children is to give them a model of a mother and father who are loving each other and who have an intimate relationship, because that's what we want them to have when they get married. And we give them that kind of model. Now, all the other things are important, and I talk about other things in the book as far as a parent-child relationship. But the most profound thing we do is to give them the model of a loving mom and a loving dad. So we have to just prioritize. And yes, you're right, it is harder because it takes a lot of time to raise children, and but we have to make time for our own relationship as well.
Yeah, and especially when one of their love languages is acts of service, as I'm learning.
Yep.
And so the next question I have is, like, as we continue to dig deeper into the book, we start to realize that the importance of guiding and being a guide for your children. And this one really struck me because I have older children. My children are middle school and high school, and I could see myself, just like so many parents, wanting to prioritize being your kid's friend. And I think in our society, there's this real emphasis on, I just want them to be my kid's best friend. But you don't have a chapter on being your kid's best friend. You have a chapter on being your kid's guide. Can you explain that?
I think we have to recognize that parents are older than children. Consequently, we have more wisdom than children. And in God's design, God is our model. So what did God as a father do for us? He gave us guidelines. He said, here are some things don't do. Here's some things to do. And everything that God laid out for us is flowing out of his love. And so we love our children. So we are the ones responsible for giving them guidance in how to some things we don't do, some things we do, because we want them to be a healthy adult. And some of the things that we're going to guide them in, they may not be super happy with them. They may not agree with us, and they may even argue as they get older with us. But if we recognize that what we want to do is have guidelines that are going to help them become a person that can make a difference in the world when they get to be an adult, and that their lives can have a positive impact in the world. So I think if we recognize that, then we see ourselves as a loving guide to our children.
So, Dr. Chapman, there's probably some mom and dad listening here that maybe they're starting to realize the importance of being a guide and not a friend, but they're realizing it kind of late in the game. Maybe it's the 8th inning. The kids are older, they're in high school, and they're like, how do they begin to guide when the kiddos are older?
I think sometimes it starts with an apology.
Wow.
If we recognize when we read a book like this that we have failed in some areas, it's just to say to the children, I've been thinking, I've been reading, I've been praying, I've been thinking about what kind of dad I've been or what kind of mom I've been. And I realize that there are some areas where I feel like I failed you. And I can't go back and change those things. But I just want you to know that I realize that and you just apologize for whatever it is and say to them, I hope you can forgive me. And I would like to be a better dad. I'd like to be a better mom in the future. And so often it starts with that, because if the child has some resentment already because of things where you have failed them, it's not going to get better until you tear down the wall that's between you and them, the emotional wall. And that comes by apologizing. And most children are willing to acknowledge that. And then if you can begin to make some loving changes in the way you relate to them, they realize, oh man, you were not serious. You were serious when you apologized. So, I think sometimes it begins there.
Yeah, that's great. I also love that. So you just talked about the emotional wall. And I just love it. Even in your book, you were just like, hey, that wall is built brick by brick. It's not that you wake up one day and there's a giant wall. And so just the visual picture that gave of one, when it goes up, but also just like the freedom from tearing it down was just a really powerful word picture. I just thought that was great.
And you go from this idea of, and by the way, I think there's something really hopeful about what you just said. I just want to pause and go, that shows a level of humility on the parent. It also shows the child, no matter how old they are, that this is going to be something that is about to change, but it's being changed out of a place of love and a place of wanting to do things better. And I think that's when I asked that question, I expected a lot of things, but I love what you said, and I didn't expect that. If it's not about telling the child, well, things are going to change, buckle up. It's I'm sorry. And it's also showing it's probably going to be take off guard the kid that's got a chip on his shoulder too. So
yeah.
I'm curious with some of the different pieces that you gave for what to work on for yourself or in your home. What if there's a listener that's just like, hey, I don't think my spouse is receptive to thinking this way. What encouragement would you give to someone who's like, hey, I'm reading the book, but I don't know that I'm going to actually be able to find traction with it in my home?
Yeah. I think one thing I would say is, especially to wives, don't ever ask your husband to read a book.
Not even yours.
Ask him if he would be willing to read a chapter in a book. That's good. And say, this book has helped a lot of people, and I just would you be willing to read this chapter? And I'm going to read it. And at the end of the week, we'll just ask ourselves, is there anything we could learn from this chapter? And if they take that step, then you can say, would you be interested in reading the next chapter or not, you know. Well, chances are, if you had a good discussion, something grew positive out of it. Say, well, yeah, let's read another chapter. So, yeah, it we can't. You know, we've always said, and I agree, we cannot change our spouse. That's true, but we can influence our spouse. And one of the most powerful ways to influence a spouse is, let's say, with a love language. Even if they're not interested in discussing love language, you figure out their love language. You speak their love language unconditionally to them with the help of God. Something happens inside of them
Yeah.
because they know they don't deserve what you're doing. And God can use your behavior to influence them. And that, I think that's what we need to think in terms of, not trying to change them, but trying to influence them in a positive way.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think what makes the 5 love languages, going back to that, so powerful is God wants us to show love and honor to our spouse. And
Yeah.
so when we do that, even if they don't reciprocate, at least not at first, we do so for our God as much as for our marriage. And
Yeah.
I think there's something really holistically freeing to be able to say, you know, he's still mean or she's still unappreciative, but you know something? I'm serving my God by serving my spouse. And
Absolutely.
and I think that for us as Christians that are lives changed by Christ, that's such an important distinction to be able
Yeah.
to say, like, it's okay if he doesn't change right away because you're doing it for God as much as for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and don't let your emotions control your behavior. You can have negative feelings toward your spouse. You can feel hurt by them, but you don't allow the emotions to control your behavior. You know, Romans chapter 5 and verse 5 says the love of God is poured into our hearts by the Holy Spirit. So we're saying to God, Lord, you know how I feel about my spouse, and I don't have positive feelings because of some things that have happened. But I know you love them, and so I'm opening my heart and let you pour your love into me, and let me be your agent for loving them, because you're closer than anyone else in the universe to that spouse. I mean, physically.
It's true.
So you can be God's agent to touching them. Yeah, it's powerful when you realize that we don't have to be controlled by our negative feelings. We can love the person in a positive way with the help of God, even if we don't have positive feelings.
That's a good point. You use the terms obey and honor, and children obeying and honoring their parents. Now, these are words, obey and honor. You don't hear these words anymore. These are words that are not common vernacular anymore. And so Dr. Chapman, like, tell us about that. Unpack that for a society, 2024 society. What does that look like?
I think if we realize that if children do not learn how to obey rules or guidelines and come to adulthood, they're going to join the many, many thousands in our country who are living their lifestyle. The rules don't count. I do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it. And the whole society begins to crumble when that happens.
Wow.
So teaching children how to honor your authority as a parent has to do with obeying the rules. And with every time you make a rule for a child, tell them what the consequences will be if they break the rule. For example, if you have a rule that we don't throw the ball inside the house, we throw it in the yard, but not in the house. And if you do happen to throw the ball inside the house, we're going to put it in the trunk of the car for 2 days, and you will lose the privilege of playing with it. And if you break something, then we're going to have to pay for it out of your allowance. The child knows now what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. So when they do break the rule, you say to them, Johnny, you remember the rule? We don't throw the ball in the house? And you remember the consequences? And they're nodding their head and probably start crying. Well, let's go put the ball in the trunk of the car. Put it in there. And I don't know. We broke that vase. I don't know what it'll cost, but we'll have to find out. We'll have to start taking it out of your allowance. But listen, I'm proud of you because most of the time you keep the rule. I love you so much. You wrap the discipline in love, but they know the discipline. They know it's logical. They accept the discipline. And they won't throw the ball in the house the next time. I can almost guarantee you, if you let them suffer the consequences. So That's precisely what God does. If you do what God says, you're going to have the best possible life you could have on earth. If you violate it, you're going to suffer the consequences.
Wow.
So children learn that in the home, then they take it out in the world with them. Public school teachers say to me, Gary, I've spent half my time just trying to keep order in the classroom so I can teach, because so many of the children don't respect the teacher as an authority in the room. So this is huge in terms of having a healthy family and having healthy children. And it doesn't have to be harsh and mean. It can be very loving. But the child needs to know that when we break a rule, we suffer the consequences.
It's interesting too, even hearing you talk, that sounds like a very healthy parent being able to pause and have that kind of conversation or even just that dialogue with their child. I feel like as a society, we've been through a lot over the last couple of years, and parents haven't been excluded from that. And so I'm curious, what would you say to a parent that just maybe doesn't even feel like they have the emotional capacity to be able to call a timeout and have like those kinds of conversations or clear thoughts with their kids, that actually might be more of a sign of an unhealthy parent versus a unhealthy parent-child relationship?
I think we have to ask God to help us have a picture of ourselves as we really are. Listen, none of us are perfect parents. We don't have to be perfect parents, but we do want to be growing parents. We want to be getting better at what we're doing. And so just take some time to sit down and think about it. The last time you had an interface with your child, was it positive or was it negative? And it's easy to look. If you take time to sit down and look at yourself, you can see where the weaknesses are. And then that's the area where you begin to work and where you say, apologize to a child. Don't let a wall get built. Apologize. I should not have raised my voice at you like that. Mother should not yell at a child. So please forgive me for yelling at you. Okay. And parents say, well, if I apologize to my children, won't they lose respect for me? No, they gain respect. They already know what you did is not right.
Wow. That's a good word.
Yeah.
That's such a good word. Dr. Chapman, you're still teaching me here. So, because my children, I think Steph and I have a tendency to, we know the rules, the kids know the rules, but we get really loosey-goosey on the consequences because we rush to grace, which is not the most loving thing that we can do sometimes, because we're like, okay, one more warning, one more chance, one more. And I have to remind myself that's not love sometimes. Sometimes the consequence is love. And that's hard. That's heavy lifting for a parent that loves their kids so much.
It's absolutely. I remember our son, when he got his first bicycle, I said, now, Derek, every night before you come inside, you have to put this bicycle in the shed, okay? We don't leave it out in the yard overnight. If you do, you'll lose the privilege of the bicycle the next day. You understand? Yeah, I understand that. Well, one night he left it out. And so the next day I said, Derek, you remember the rule? And you left it out. So what has to happen? You can't ride the bicycle today. He said, oh, Dad, he said, all the guys are going to be riding this afternoon. He said, Dad, let me ride today, Dad, and I won't ride tomorrow.
Wow. That sounds like it's ripped right out of my family. Okay, keep going, please.
And I said, I can understand your feeling like that. And I said, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably feel exactly like you feel, because I can see it's not you want to ride with your friends. But listen, you knew the rule and you knew the consequences. And I knew the rule and I knew the consequences. And I loved you too much to let you ride today. You have to suffer the consequences.
Wow.
He was not super happy about it, but he never left his bike out another day the rest of the time he was with us.
And what I learned from you, sir, is it's not about a bike and it's not about a shed.
Right.
It's about you want him to be the man of God that he can be. And it starts by doing that here when he was over a silly bike.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. See, we can be loving, but we can be firm. Yeah. And actually allowing them suffer the consequences is an act of love.
Wow. So let's talk about just the last thing. And Dr. Chapman, do you have time for just 1.5 more questions here?
Surely.
It'll probably be 2, but so the question about husbands, like your last thing the last focus is actually on one of the spouses. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of the husband and the father's role in the family, that so much so that you highlight it?
Yeah, I think the role of the father in the home is exceedingly valuable and exceedingly important. And so the father is to be what I call a loving leader. And don't ever separate those two words. I've heard people trying to apply that biblical concept that says the husband is the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church. And they say, well, in our culture, what that means is the husband is the president and she's the vice president. I say, no, 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 no. The model is Jesus. He's the head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church. What did the head of the church do for the church? He died for the church.
Wow. So
the husband is a loving leader. He takes initiative to do things for the benefit of his wife and his children. And I don't think many wives are going to walk away from a husband who has a loving attitude, who sees himself as the leader and takes initiative to plan things and do things. I've had so many wives say to me through the years things like, Dr. Chapman, I just wish my husband would lead devotions for the family every night. Or, I just wish my husband would plan some things for the children to do. It's just like all that kind of falls on my shoulders. I think wives appreciate a husband who has a loving attitude and is a loving leader.
Wow.
So I think it's important to understand the concept, because I think when you say the husband's the leader in the home, some people say, oh, no. But they have military models. He's the general. Yeah. No.
That makes sense.
He's following the example of Jesus.
Wow. That's a sacrificial love. Now, for the family that reads this book that, maybe dad's not in the picture, maybe dad has passed, or dad, there's a divorce or something. Can they still have the elements of this in spite of the fact that dad's not there?
I think they can have a healthy family. And I think it often involves having someone else in the extended family playing somewhat of a father role for the children in particular. It may be a grandfather, it may be an uncle that can do things with those children that a father would typically do for those children. And I don't mean this has to happen, but I think it's healthy when it can happen. Because when a child grows up with no model of a father, he's entering adulthood with a handicap.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, he has to learn what a healthy father and a healthy husband would look like. So, and I think extended family members can help in those situations.
I love that. So to close, you have this book coming out, and we're going to be gifting some of these books to our audience. But I want to ask, what's your prayer and hope for this book and for all of our listeners?
My hope is that people who want to have a healthy family will read the book together. We'll discuss what can we learn from each of the chapters as we work our way through it. And consequently, we'll have a growing family, toward healthy family. The book is not to condemn anyone wherever they are in the journey. The book is starting where you are. What steps can you take to have a healthy family? It'll be for your benefit. It'll be for the benefit of the children. It'll be for the benefit of the kingdom of God. Wow. That's my hope.
So 5 Traits of a Healthy Family, written by Dr. Gary Chapman. Dr. Chapman, thank you again for continuing to teach us, and thanks for affecting my family, my children, Joanna's family, her children. Thank you for being a faithful, servant. So thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you today, and also to be a part of your ministry. So keep up the good work.
We sure will try. Dr. Chapman, thank you for your time, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I took some stuff away.
Yeah, I love that he kept saying growth.
Yeah.
The goal is a growing family. The goal is a growing marriage.
Yeah.
Like, how freeing is that? At no point, what if he would have got on and say, you know what, guys, the goal is perfection. It's like we're not already all beating ourselves up, but for the fact for him to just say the goal is growing, that's like, I love that.
and I love the everything was wrapped around the love of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And it makes me, one, trust everything more, but two, it puts the stakes differently. It's not just about like, correcting my children's behavior. It's about helping them become who God wants them to become.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they're entrusted to me for a little window of time, and God's trusting me with my kids. And
Totally.
it's like, oh wow. So like it's not about, making sure that, I follow through on discipline. It's so much more about like, hey, I want to make sure I try hard to get it right.
Yeah.
Because that's what God's done. He's given us these kids.
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved the language about honor and obey, because I was like, those words, I was like, oh, those are tricky words. But when he talked about the way he used them, and kind of helped me understand honor and obey is just consequence and actions, and the ones that we choose. I was like, that was really great. And marital intimacy, when he was talking about like, hey, you got to be close as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's so many, I have friends that the marriage is just on the side burner until the kids are in college. And I was like, that's a great reminder that, hey, remember when he said the most loving thing you can do for your children is to have a healthy marriage.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it's funny in the culture that we live in and just the family of origin and then what we've experienced as kids. It also just made me think we have to do a whole different podcast on this topic, because I think that it's easy for us to want to be parents that we may have missed out on. And I think the way he reframed it around who is God creating you to be, and then how do you serve others through who God's created you to be? I don't know. I've had conversations with friends. It's like we want to feel compelled to like fix everything.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to get us there. Like he just said so many times, like the goal is growth. The goal is small steps over time in these 5 areas. In just, growing closer, communicating better, and how do you just serve one another, and just the heartbeat and like where that starts and stems from. If you like start there, it's almost like the rest has to be okay.
Yeah. And just like the 5 love languages, it starts with you.
Yeah.
That's another thing is like you don't have to. That's the beauty of this book is you don't have to have everything figured out.
Yep.
Like you don't have to have your spouse on board yet. You don't have to have your children on board yet. It starts with you and your decisions. And he says, what did he say? You get to choose your actions. You get to choose your decisions and attitude.
Yeah. In spite or in like direct tension of your emotions.
Yeah.
Like I love that he just talked about, hey, you're not going to feel like it, but the growth will happen when you do it when you don't feel like it, or when you still have negative feelings towards your spouse or your kids or their behavior or what they did or didn't do. That it's just like, that's me checking my heart.
Yeah.
Like not me checking someone else's heart.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so I think this episode is going to be good. Like, I think this is a very shareable episode. I have like 5 people in my life right now that I'm planning to share this episode with, because it's also like there's something about someone that has been around the block a couple times. Like Dr. Chapman is like he's been married for 65 years. He has something to teach us about this, and so I want everyone to be able to listen to his wisdom. And part of Dr. Chapman's wisdom is giving away some of his books. So we're actually going to give away two packages. Now, these aren't just one book. We're going to give away 2 collections of multiple of Dr. Gary Chapman's books, including the 5 love languages, the 5 love languages for children. We're going to give away something special. Instead of just giving away 10 one copies, we're going to give away 2 multiple copies. So we're going to give a big collection of his works, and we're going to give those away to a person that comments on our listening platforms, or a person that comments on our YouTube platform. We're going to choose 2 of those people, and we're going to give away several of his works that you can start to apply in your family and your marriage today.
So leave a review. Tell us how it was helpful.
Yeah.
That'll enter you to win.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
I'm excited. This is going to be a good one. I feel like I have like a whole bookshelf of Dr. Gray Chapman's books already because they've just been so helpful. And they just give language when you feel like you don't have language, but you have a lot of like frustration.
Yes.
Or opportunities uncovered.
This has been such a great episode. So as always with the Live Change podcast, like, share, subscribe, make sure other people get to hear this, because everyone wants to have a healthy marriage and everyone wants to have a healthy family. So, and as Lives Changed by Christ, we want to continue to grow, continue to change each and every single day. And now that your life changed by Christ, make sure you go and live that change out.